from the Crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls of Chattanooga Film Festival. Welcome to Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mando.
Hello.
And tonight, we will be reviewing our list of the best Tales from the Crypt episodes. But before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about Dads from the Crypt. We are three spooky dads who are reviewing Tales from the Crypt episodes, along with other horror anthology movies. We also interview people who have worked on the show and movies, including actors like John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, William Sadler, and directors like Bob Gale, Ernest Dickerson, Stephen Hopkins, and producers like William Tytler, Al Katz, and Gil Adler. We also discuss a variety of topics such as music, usually of the metal variety, horror movie news, and we end each episode with some dad advice. And finally, we also have a Patreon for bonus content, including our reviews of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. Now, before we get to the episode ranking, let me say that we are all passionate fans here. Our opinions are our own. They do not invalidate yours. If you disagree, that's okay. But we just ask everyone to be respectful. Now, for the methodology tonight's, we are following the format that the Bloody Good Horror podcast uses, and that we also used for our Nightmare on Elm Street series ranking episode, where we ranked each of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So what we did is all three of us made up our top 10 list, and then I gave each position a weighted number. So our number one episode got 10 points, our number two episode got 9 points, and so on. I tallied how many points each episode got, and that's how we came to this list. So without further ado, we're going to talk about our honorable mentions. For the most part, these are ones that each of us ranked, usually on the bottom half of our episode, that no one else listed.
And to say one thing about this, with Tales from the Crypt, with so many episodes, if you ask me for another list 10 days from now, it's probably going to be different. I'm sure there'll definitely be overlap, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it depends on my mood. Am I in a feisty mood or a playful mood?
Right. Yeah, there's
and you know this
90 episodes.
Yeah.
And as I talk to people about this, and I've chatted on the Discord stuff, there's actually a lot of people who, even big time horror fans, who haven't seen a lot of Tales from the Crypt. So if that's you, consider this a primer. Like this is like, if you're trying to figure out, like, I want to get into this, first off, there's no like streaming available because rights issues. But they're on the internet, they're on YouTube, and you can buy the DVDs if you want to do that. But if you haven't seen them, these are some good ones to check out. Maybe a good place to start for a newbie.
Yes.
And these may be just our opinions, but we do have the producers on regularly, so maybe our opinions are worth more than everyone else's. I'm just saying. Jason's saying that just our opinions. I'm just saying maybe
I just don't want to get. Yeah, I still want to get a flame more in any comment section.
I think there was an episode recently that all three of us were kind of like, yeah, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was okay. And then Al Katz was like, that episode sucked.
Well, yeah, it's different when you're the one making it versus the one watching it. Also, when you're watching these episodes on the regular clip like we are, we're comparing them a lot more to the ones that are like coming out at the same time. So if you're cherry picking the best of, it's a little different than just watching it straight through.
Right.
Very true.
And we should mention we haven't actually finished watching all of them, right?
Yeah, so
we're in season 7 right now. I just feel pretty safe in saying none of our top 10 are going to come from season 7.
Yeah, that's a great point, because one of the questions we get asked the most are which are your favorite episodes, and we've kind of declined from doing that a little bit. But yeah, we're about to start the last season, which is generally considered not great. So if any of these 7th season episodes crack into our top 10, I'd be very surprised, and then we'll just redo the episode for next year at Chattanooga Film Festival. All right, so again, we're just gonna do some quick honorable mentions. So I'm just gonna go through each of you kind of put that kind of didn't make the top 10. So Jody, your honorable mentions were What's Cooking, Undertaking Parlor, Lower Berth, and Split Second. Are any of those you want to defend?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I like every single one of those.
Oh, I'll say that any of those probably could be on my list on any given week. Those are all good episodes.
Especially What's Cooking. That's a hard one not to put on, but
yeah. Quick rundown. What's Cooking is excellent. It's got Christopher Reeve in it. Just a fun episode with a little bit of mild cannibalism. Split second to me, even though I think when we actually did the episode, I was by far the most positive about it. But for me, it feels like quintessential Tales from the Crypt. There's like a scheming woman who's, trying to get money. There's a jealous husband, and then there's gory revenge. Like, it's everything that I think of when I think of Tales from the Crypt.
It's not my favorite, but it's Joe Pesci.
No, that's a different one.
Yeah, this one's the one with
Logger.
Yeah, this is the one with the lumberjacks.
Yes, sorry.
You're speaking. It was a split personality, something split.
Yeah, no, that's another one too with the twins.
That's another great one.
That's another great one. Yeah. What else? I have Lower Birth. Lower Birth that gives us the origin of the Crypt Keeper. It has a lot of fun monsters.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Kevin Yeager episode.
Yeah. Kevin Yeager, so you get good special effects and cool monsters. So yeah, every single one of those I stand by. I think they're great episodes. But I do understand why they did not make the top. Oh, what was the other? Undertaking Parlor?
Undertaking Parlor, yeah.
That's the one with the kids.
Yes, that's a fun
doing
one.
Doing the like found footagey type thing.
With Oscar winner Keon.
What's that?
Oh, with the guy from Everywhere.
Oh yeah. You've got at the time I would have known him as like Short Round or Data from the Goonies, but now he's like a big famous actor. But yeah, that was a really cool episode, and one of the earlier found footage things I think I've seen, like other than like Cannibal Holocaust or something.
No. And very well done too. It's kind of got a cool vibe to it as well, because what always takes me out of found footage is my suspension of disbelief sometimes. Like Cloverfield, I love Cloverfield, but if I had to jump across 2 buildings, I'm not carrying a camera with me. Like, that's just not going to happen. But in that, they did a really good job with the way they did the cameras, and plus being kids, super excited about new technology, like, and not realizing or understanding the repercussions of what their actions could be. It made it. I like that episode a lot.
Yeah, it felt very Goonies-ish too. Yes. Like, because of the like gang of kids coming together and dealing with horrific things they've seen. And that's another one that's got some like really gross effects with it too. I like that one a lot.
And if I remember correctly, we get asked a lot about what horror movie should I show my kids. That's one I think that you could watch with your kids and it'd be a fun one.
Yeah. All right, Mando, your honorable mentions are Forever Ambergris, The Ventriloquist Dummy, Morning Mess, Until Death.
Oh yeah, all those are great. Like, the fact you guys didn't have them on your list is just bullshit. Like,
we can rib each other about those.
Yeah, every single one of those was in my honorable mentions, though. Just they if we did a top 20, those would all get hit too.
Yeah, I sometimes pick a lot on the ones that just. As we've gone through these episodes, some of the ones that I've loved rewatching are the ones I remember when I was a kid. I remember watching them late at night, and like Forever Ambergris, for instance. Just come on, Steve Buscemi and the awesome effects in that. That's an episode I'll never get out of my head.
And all those candles.
All the candles and the sensual, the open door lovemaking with friends in your apartment. It's all a matter of taste, right? When you go through this many episodes, you're gonna have a bunch that we're not gonna agree on. But like much like Jody's honorable mentions, I wouldn't say any of those episodes is a bad episode. I wouldn't disagree with a single one of them. And I'm pretty sure you feel the same way about mine. And if you don't, you have no taste.
There you go. All right, mine were Dig That Cats, Skin Deep. I think that's really only 2.
I'll be honest, Dig That Cat's fantastic. It's a great episode. I'm actually surprised though. I'm the only person that put Ventriloquist Dummy on there.
It was so close. That was like a split-second decision for me.
And it's funny. I can't even remember if I gave all these 5s or not.
Yeah, I wanted to go back and look and see how we were. Yeah, these are just how they stuck with me.
Yeah, because sometimes in the moment, right? Like, how many times has there been a movie? The first time you watch it, you're like, "That's okay," but then it just sticks in your brain, and you watch it again and again and again. It turns into being one of your favorites. Step Brothers is that for me. First time I watched it, I'm like, "That's pretty funny." Now I watch that movie like once a month, and I think over time, your opinions will definitely change.
Yeah. So Dig That. It's one of those things where like you have to have at least one of the 3 original episodes. Like everyone is like either Dig That Cat person, All Through the House person, or Man Who Was Death person. And it's like Yeah, it's just one of those things. And Think That Cat, it just is such a great ending. And Joey Pants, Robert Wall is just so good.
Definitely.
And the other one I have is Skin Deep, which again is another one I very vividly remember watching. It's just maybe one of the first erotic thrillers I saw when I was a kid, of that form, and that had an impression on me.
Yeah, that's one thing we've never discussed here. You know, what erotic thriller should I show my child?
Are they ready for the Emmanuel series yet?
Yeah, you know, it was more of a Basic Instinct thing with an 8-year-old. You know, what are you going to watch?
Rochelle. All right, but now let's get to our top 10. So what I did was I chose whoever had this episode ranked the highest will be the one to talk about it. Okay. And actually for number 10 we have a tie. So technically it's our top 11 list, but just because we tied, so you get a little bonus. Let's see. I'm going to start us off with Dead Right. This is the Demi Moore episode to start off season 2, and this is a lot like the Emma Thompson episode, but just you can instantly tell that they've gone a little bit higher budget, a little higher production standards. And this is Demi Moore, right, when she's like really hitting her stride. And you've got such a great twist that like you're like, damn, at the end, like that just really hits you. And great acting, some good gore effects, some good makeup effects to make I can never pronounce his last name, but
Jeffrey Tambor
to make him into a larger gentleman. And it's a very classic episode. That's just one, like, if you're gonna put up episodes like this is the template for Tales from the Crypt, that's one of the ones I'd put there.
And his character in that, it's not just him being big, like that's part of it, but he is so gross in that episode. Like, he is such a disgusting human being.
His personality is gross.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like it's fat phobic or anything like that.
No.
It's more so he's just not a good person.
He's just awful,
and he's a gross person. He's not a good person. Yeah.
And Demi Moore's character isn't a good person either, but she's just kind of.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing for Tales, right?
Yeah.
Like, good people are few and far between in Tales episodes.
And that's what really makes that episode with the twist, is that they both get what they deserve. They really do. Like, it is a yes, a bit of a tale of morality, as you can say.
All right. Moving on, Jody, you picked Abracadaver.
Oh, good one.
Oh, yeah. That's a really cool one.
The Stephen Hopkins episode.
Yeah. And if I remember right, most of that's first person, right? Like, at least through a lot of it, you're seeing through a character's eyes. At least, yeah. So you're seeing through this character's eyes, and there's a great, like, the twist in that one is so perfect. And there's actually a couple twists in that. Like, it kind of twists one way, then twists back another way. Really cool concept. I like the twist a lot. And it's a good episode. It's acted well. I got nothing bad to say about that one.
I would say it's a bad thing, but it just always cracks me up in one of the POV shots. You can see the boom mic coming into the screen at one point. Always kind of funny, because when you're doing POV, the thing about POV shots is you don't quite know where to focus your eyes some of the times. So you just kind of you're just searching the screen to figure out what you're supposed to be focused on. So when there's a mistake like that, it's even more noticeable.
I mean, the reality is
endearing.
I'd say probably, half the things I love have a boom mic appearing in it at some point. So maybe that's one of the things that makes me love it. It has that, kind of homegrown feel to it.
Yeah. Low budget's always endearing.
Yeah.
Except for when it's this terrible shot on video. That's another story for another day. Some of that stuff is.
All right. Jody, you actually have the next two. First up is Fitting Punishment.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is such a good episode. So this one is directed by the guy who did Nightmare on Elm Street 2, right?
Jack Shoulder, who we have an interview with.
Jack Shoulder, yep.
Really cool guy.
Yeah. So the direction's really good. It's the first Tales episode with a predominantly black cast. And you get, again, it's just one of the most despicable characters ever committed to film. There's an uncle in here, and he is just the absolute worst human. And so when bad things happen to him, you feel good about it. It makes you happy to see him go down. And again, another one with great effects. It is set in a morgue. And so you get to see the whole embalming process take place. And it is nasty. Like, You'll see a theme with mine that I do like the nastier ones a lot of times. I like the gross effects and stuff, and this one definitely does that. Like something about the mortuary thing where they're doing like actual things, like it's not someone's head exploding or skin melting. It's squirm inducing. Like I remember watching that one like, ugh.
I've always said this. Some of the best effects or best gags in any kind of horror film is when it's something you can kind of relate to.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the Masters of Horror episode Imprint?
Yeah.
When they're putting the needles under her fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's gotten a splinter under their fingernail or something like that. So you can just feel like it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. It's like with the mortuary scene. I think mortuary scenes are always very they kind of hit you in a different place because one day, guess what? We're all gonna be in that slab someday. Probably me before you guys, but it's but
you're the youngest, so we'll see.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, yeah, and also with that episode too, a very, very great protagonist, a very likable protagonist that you really want to root for.
Yeah, so there's no good people, but he's actually a decent guy.
He's a good one. He's a good one in it.
And this is a good example of where they take. It's actually the story is relatively the same as the comic, because that's one thing we do in our episodes is that we compare it to the comics. So the very spine of the story is the same, but they put it, but it takes place in this kind of old Victorian setting, but putting it in a more contemporary, in a very African American community, gives a whole extra color that really brings it to life. And that's, I think, one of the things that we value very much when going through these is when they can enhance from the comics, like keep the essence and keep the basics of the comics, but give it that splash of excitement that really pops it off.
Yeah, a lot of my favorite episodes are the ones where it does stick more with the comic story, but just kind of adds to it or updates it or whatever. Because I mean, there's so many that take the title and don't have anything to do with the comic, and those are fine. There's some great episodes like that, but the ones that I really just love a lot of times are the ones that I can look at the comic and read one version of the story and then watch the episode and get the same story just with some twists and changes in it. And that's a good one for that.
All right. Number 8 is House of Horror. And Jody, you get to go again.
All right. So I like this one a lot. It's got, oh, shoot. I just blanked on the names.
Oh, that's a great cast. There's Kevin Dillon.
Thank you.
Will Wheaton.
Kevin Dillon, Will Wheaton. You've got the woman who's Patton Oswalt's wife. Now.
Meredith Salinger.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, great cast. It's I have a soft spot for like college set horror or like fraternity stuff. I was in a fraternity, but nothing like this. Like
Jody,
it's just some. No.
You can legally talk about.
This is the fun kind of like, it reminds me of like
Revenge of the Nerds a little bit.
Yeah, I love those movies. Problematic as they are now, but I love those movies as a kid. It reminds me of stuff like Night of the Demons, you know, where you get a teenage college cast and good twist at the end. I mean, it's not the most innovative episode, but it's that very much that comfort horror. Like I've seen Night of the Demons 2 more times than I can count because it's one that I'm, it's late at night. I'm feeling a little tired or stressed. I'm going to put on Night of the Demons 2 because I love it. It makes me happy. And that's the same kind of vibe I get from this episode. You get all the fraternity stuff. You get the asshole who is, kind of the leader of the guys. You get revenge against those guys. It's just a fun, and it's a haunted house.
And Kevin Dillon is such a great asshole.
He is.
He plays such a good. He's got a great face for it. That's a guy who I can just never take him as a honorable character. He just the way he looks. He's probably the nicest person, but he just has that look to him. Like you just don't want him to succeed in anything in life.
This was a Bob Gale episode. We have we have an interview with him. He's a great guy. He has a really fun time with this. He has some great stories about working with that young cast. And I think Kevin Dillon got arrested during the shooting. And
maybe he's not a nice guy.
Well, I think he was just like driving while tired or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Okay.
I mean, I've done some driving while tired that was worse than anything I could have done while under any other kind of influence. So, I get it. Driving while tired, it's a bad idea. Dad advice, take a nap.
Can you get arrested for driving while tired?
I guess if you're driving erratically.
Riding erratically, maybe. I mean, you got pulled. I can't.
I mean, my worst car wreck
episode,
I've
I don't
ever
remember
been
the
in is 'cause I
story
fell
verbatim,
asleep.
but he got in some trouble for that.
The worst
Your
car wreck
fault.
I've ever been in, I fell asleep behind the wheel on the interstate. So,
but you can tell
people
in an
driving
episode
before and woken up like, oh shit, I'm driving.
yeah. No, I woke up because the hood of my car flew up.
Okay.
Vision.
That's a rude awakening.
Bad. It's bad. Don't do that. Bad advice. Take a nap.
Yeah,
It's not fun.
5-hour energy drink. But you can tell sometimes when the cast is having fun behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
This is definitely one where I think they're having a blast with it. All right, the next one is for me. This is the new arrival. This is was it Robert Wagner, who recently passed away, which is a real bummer. Great actor, and Zelda Rubinstein. And this is the episode that when I saw it with a kid, scared the shit out of me to the point where I had to sleep with the lights on. I was probably in middle school. Like, I'm not like a kid. I was, probably around bar mitzvah age. I'll put it that way. And I was like, I think this is the scariest episode of Tales from the Crypt for me, at least.
Yeah, it's a great one. That was very, very close for me. I love that episode.
Yeah. It's kind of nihilistic, but it's also kind of funny. Like now watching it, it's funny, but also it's really dark. That they pretty much abducted the psychiatrist and they're just going to keep him there, and that's how it ends.
Oh, it's one of those episodes, especially watching the age you watch it at. You saw it at the perfect time to be freaked out by this one, because it's like, of course, 26 years, 7, 8 years in hindsight, we've seen so much stuff over the years. But for a young, impressionable horror fan, this is a pretty terrifying episode. And Zelda Rubinstein is just, God, she understands the assignment. Did the kids still say that? Did the kids still say that today? Is that still a thing?
Sure.
I don't know what the kids say.
Me either. But
I'm well beyond knowing what the kids say.
Yeah, this is like everything. It's got makeup effects. It's got like almost like a Saw house in it, like with traps and stuff.
Kind of like Nothing But Trouble.
Oh,
I was gonna get one in tonight.
I know that movie. But yeah, scary, but also kind of funny in its own way. Amazing actors, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it's directed by the guy who did what's that classic haunted house movie? The Changeling.
Oh, The Changeling. Yeah. Peter Middick.
Peter Middick.
Yeah. So you got some real talent going on there. Oh, and you have a great Robert Patrick cameo at the very beginning. As the radio jockey. Yeah. For me, it's really up there. That was my number 4 episode. No, 3. So that was my top 3. Yeah, that's how much that episode means to me.
Yeah, if you've never watched much Tales, like just spotting all the actors it's like a who's who of 80s and 90s actors. Like every big name just about appears in something or directed something.
Yeah. All right, Mando, it's your turn. You got Television Terror.
Television Terror is one of my favorites of all time. Just it's so off. It goes. I love. It was one of the first, around the time Ghostwatch came out. It kind of had that feeling of they fake the whole television production, but then it turns real. And some movies have done it really well since, like I really like Grave Encounters, something like that. But it's kind of again like a precursor almost to that pseudo documentary, that found footage. And Robert Downey, was it Robert Downey or Morton Downey? Morton Downey, yeah, duh. Is just batshit off the wall. In the perfect Tales from the Crypt way. And then I think that's one that actually gets genuinely scary with some of the stuff going on in the house.
Oh yeah.
And I think I'm a sucker for a good haunted house film. So to me, this episode ranks way up there. I love this episode.
It's got a great ending too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like one of those gut punch kind of.
Yeah, and definitely ahead of its time for what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's also kind of funny. It's also kind of got a little bit. It's a little
campy.
Campy, thank you.
Yeah.
With the producers like, oh no, just keep going. It's fine.
Yeah. I forgot about the producer character.
She's great. I know. That's what I always thought that was really funny. And that's the thing where like it's balancing a little bit of humor, a little bit of horror, where to me, the new arrival just goes straight into the horror. There's no camp bringing it back. Where this one, I think, has a little bit more balance. So it depends on what you're looking for. But
it's everything for ratings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the stuff in the house is terrifying. The stuff in the van is pretty funny. So It's a fun juxtaposition. All right, now we're getting to our top 5. Jody, you have And All Through the House, number 5.
Okay. So we were going to end up talking about at least some of the original 3. So for those who don't know, on the very first night that Tales premiered, there were 3 episodes. It was this, Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, and The Man Who Was Death. All fantastic episodes, like such a strong start. But for me, it has always been And All Through the House. You've got an evil Santa Claus. Okay, already I like this. Like I like that. There's something about taking something pure and wholesome like Santa and making it scary that I really like. Things like Silent Night, Deadly Night, stuff like that. So I already like scary Santa. But this particular scary Santa is so good. It's Larry Drake.
Oh, Larry Drake, the man. Dr.
Giggles himself. And he is so good in this. He is so creepy. Does he even have any lines in it?
No.
Or is it just him? His body language, his face, like it's so creepy.
He has the naughty or nice line at the very end. That's it.
Okay, yeah.
Just that punch.
Yeah. So he is so good, and that is 90% of why I love this episode. But also, it's just a good, someone does something wrong, and then they pay the consequences, and that's. The best Tales episodes for me are the morality plays where the bad guy or the person who, decides to step out and cross the line gets what's coming to him. And in this case, I think it's just really well done. Mostly that Larry Drake, though. It's mostly him. Just picturing his face right now in my head. Mm-hmm. I'm immediately like, oh, so good. I love it.
I mean, everything Larry Drake did, like he's just a fantastic actor and has that. Like I said, the face. He's got that face in all of his roles. He's got that classic. Yes, that classic. He's got that classic bad guy look to him at all times.
Well, have either of y'all seen Dark Knight of the Scarecrow?
Yes,
not for a long time, but yeah.
It was a TV movie, but he was actually like the good guy in that one. Yeah. And there's one scene where something bad happens to him, and all you can see is his face, like his eyes. He is so well acted. He's really great in everything he does.
Yeah, he has like 2 modes where he's either playing completely demented or congenial, gentle,
kind of innocent. Person. Like in Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, it's very much an innocence thing.
Well, because he was also in the episode, which I really love, The Secret, where the boy, again, we're spoiling everything, but the boy turns out to be a werewolf, and he's like the butler protecting him from vampires. And so he's actually, it's funny because he's in the first episode of the first season, one of the first episodes of the first season, and the last episode of the second season.
Yeah.
He won an Emmy on LA Law for playing a mentally challenged man. Mm-hmm. So the width of his acting is really impressive. Again, I love this episode a lot. To me, Dig That Cat is a little more better all the way through. And again, I feel bad that we don't have The Man Who Was Death on all 3 of our top 10s. Because William Sadler gives an amazing performance. He's also a great guy. But it's like you have to choose. That's the one of these lists. You can't.
And I know when I was making my list. Yeah, I know when I was making my list, I couldn't put more than one of those 3, so I had to make a choice. Yeah, I wasn't going to put all 3 of them on, and so that was the one.
You can't take up a third of your list with those 3 episodes.
Right.
So
I feel exactly the same. I think that just The Man Who Was Death was probably the weakest of the 3, and that's not a knock on it at all. It's just
it's a great episode.
3 amazing episodes, and it's just a little tiny bit less amazing. But The Man Who Was Death though set the tone for the whole series.
Yes.
So it's it's an iconic episode.
Yeah, I think there's just something about the home invading Santa Claus, like that whole concept is just creepy enough to me that it pushes it a little about other 2.
The Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah, I mean, Silent Night, Deadly Night almost pushed Robert Ebert over the edge, or Roger Ebert. God, I'm just fucking up tonight. Over the edge. I remember he was so mad about that movie when it came out.
Yeah.
And it's funny as Roger Ebert over the years too learned to kind of love a lot of horror movies. But
I like a lot of his opinions, but also he has some of the worst horror opinions when things first come out, like some of the Friday the 13th stuff that he said. Like it's fantastic to read.
Okay, number 4, and I was surprised that this wasn't higher. Is Yellow. This was my number 1 episode. And I love this episode with all my heart. This is the World War I episode, which is kind of a spoof on Paths of Glory. You got a father and son dynamic played by a real life father and son. And the acting is so good in this. You can tell. I don't think they're really acting on some points because they had Kirk and what's his name? Not Michael. But the
Douglas. Yeah, it's Michael Douglas.
Okay, Michael Douglas, and is it Kirk or the other one? I always forget. Okay, Kirk.
Yeah, that's the dad.
Oh, okay, I get them mixed up. Too many Douglases. Anyways, they already had like a tough relationship, and to see them playing out an episode about father and son who already have a tough relationship, it just comes through as so genuine. And it's such a huge epic episode. You've got this great big gory World War II battle scene to start off. And it's the only one that is like 40 minutes long, so it's by far the longest Tales from the Crypt episode because it's a Robert Zemeckis.
World War II, World War I,
World War One.
World War One.
And it's Robert Zemeckis. You can't tell him no, you can't do it. It's got to be this long. And he's like, no, I want this long. You're gonna do it. So, and it's got so many great bits. You've got Lance Henriksen, Dan Aykroyd in there. And again, the production is amazing for TV. With this great war movie. And then you have just one of the most heartbreaking endings of all time.
Yeah.
Where the father tricks the son.
It's a gut punch. It's a gut punch. This is one everyone should watch. And when I was putting my list together, there were some I had to think about, but this is one that I knew was in my top 10. I didn't have to think about this one at all. Same thing with An All for the House. I knew those are in my top 10 no matter what.
Okay, so I got to justify my opinions here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Jody.
Yeah. The only reason why Yellow did not make my list.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it was in my honorable mentions, but it didn't make the list. The only reason is if this had been because this was supposed to be the starting point for another series, right? Like this was Two-Fisted Tales pilot. If we were talking about something like that, 100% top of the list. It's a great episode. But for a Tales episode where I'm going for more of the spooky type stuff, this is a little more of the serious, a little more realistic. And so that's what shoved it out. Like I want more monsters and chainsaws in my Tales.
But
so that's the only reason.
Father and son Tales.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
the only reason is it's just not a prototypical Tales episode. It's kind of its own thing.
Sure, I respect that. But
I get that
this episode transcends Tales. That's why I put it so high. Where like this is just good TV. This isn't just great Tales episode. To me, this is amazing TV.
There's some Tales episodes when they do kind of step outside of that formula, they do fall flat in their face, like Roadhead. That one's
King of the Road.
Good. Oh, King of the Road. Well then,
I'm clipping that for YouTube Shorts.
That was on HBO too, though. But that was a Red Shoes Diaries episode, right?
I think that's the episode of Red Shoes Diary.
But I don't even know. I'm done.
No, yeah, it wasn't meant to be Tales, but it still fits. To me, it fits right in, and again, it transcends the format.
I think it fits in because the violence in the ending.
Yeah. There's violence, and it's got that, twistiness that Tales likes to have where, the last couple minutes twist everything around. I just need some more chainsaws.
I get where you're coming from because it kind of has
a little more horror. That's really what I'm asking for. Just a little more horror.
It almost has that kind of Crimson Peak thing where they market it as a horror film, and there's really like not a ton of horror in there, but there's enough horror where they couldn't market it as a drama.
Right.
Yeah, but it's also like Man Who Is Death. Which category does that fall into?
Yeah,
but we're splitting hairs though.
I get that. But I totally get your point. Jody. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great episode of TV, and it was in my honorable mentions. The only reason it didn't make it was just because it's not as horror themed as most of the other Tales things that I picked. That's all.
If it had been pretty much anywhere on your list, it probably would have been at least number 2. So it's to me that's what's so interesting about that. All right. Number 3, Mando is top billing.
Oh yeah, top billing is one of my favorite episodes of all time with Tales from the Crypt. I think I put this as my second favorite.
Actually, for both you and me, it was our second, number 2. So.
Yeah, I just love the whole story. I love John Lovett's in it. I love the setting, and I fucking love Shakespeare. And I think the way they play on Shakespeare and play on the themes of it and use like the Hamlet, like, yeah, it's based on a production of Hamlet, but there's all these themes within Hamlet and within other Shakespeare works that all tie right back into the story. It's kind of one of those, you don't have to know your Shakespeare to enjoy it. But if you do, you get these little Easter eggs that kind of make, ooh, it's kind of like, it's like good pro wrestling when you pay attention and you get these little Easter eggs that call back to different things. And John Lovitz is fantastic in it too. It's one of my, I can't remember who plays the so-called like director.
Oh, it's John Aston.
And he's
Gomez from the original Ads Family.
Oh yeah,
so good.
And he's so amazing and just being off the wall and wacky. And this is one of those episodes too, like how Jody said, yellow doesn't fit the mold of a Tales episode. This is the opposite, whereas this is like your ultimate Tales episode. Hits, I think, every little mark that I love about Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah,
go ahead. The twist on that one and the final shot are so, I'm not going to spoil those at all, but it is so good. I
love the twist because if you're paying attention, you see it coming the whole time.
Yeah.
And the only person that doesn't see it coming is the person involved in the twist. And I think that makes it so much better when we're, because the guy's kind of a dick. Yeah. But we all see what's coming to him and he doesn't see it.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing. Cause we talk about all the twists and stuff, and sometimes they surprise you. Like they're genuinely, you don't see them coming. And sometimes you do, and you're just waiting for it. And it's not like a bad thing when you have those episodes. Like I don't have to be surprised. Sometimes the inevitability of where it's heading is enough to make it really fun.
You feel like you're in on the secret, and you're in on the prank.
Yeah, well, again, I saw this as a kid, and I had no clue where this was going. So when it hit me like a ton of bricks, like, oh damn. Yeah. It's fun to watch now because now I can see all the hints that are there are kind of hiding in plain sight. But yeah, if you're not of the mind to look for it, it really gets you.
Yeah, and there's a fantastic effect in there that, again, not going to spoil what it is, but I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and again, this is directed by Todd Holland, who again we have an interview with, who's a fantastic director, and he pulls together a really, really good cast and a really good script on this one.
Yeah.
All right, we're up to number 2, and this is number 2 on Jody's list and number 1 on Mando's list. It is Cutting Cards.
Yeah, my favorite Tales episode of all time, and the iconic one that even before I started rewatching the series years ago, it's one of the first I ever saw that really just stuck in my brain and put itself in my brain. That just to play, it's a small cast, right? A small setting. And the way they play off each other is just, in my opinion, just beautiful. It's great acting. It's fun acting with this very sinister storyline wrapped around it. And then you have the ending, which is just one of my favorite, probably my favorite ending of any Tales from the Crypt episode ever. Just with the two guys in there, I won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen the episode, but just, you kind of know where it's going when you watch the episode. And then when it happens, it's like, yes.
But that's so absurd. It's so over the top. I'm sorry. You're like, are they going to go there? Are they going to go there? They went there.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love about it is it takes the concept and just sets it off and takes it to the final like extreme that it could go to. And it from the very beginning, the setup prepares you for where it's headed. And great acting. They're chewing scenery all over the place in this one.
Yeah, that's Walter Hill. Kevin Tighe and Lance Henriksen just going at it, just chewing. They're like gnawing on the scenery, just going to town on it. It's glorious.
And that's we talk sometimes about the beauty of Tales from the Crypt is getting guys like Lance Henriksen and Kevin. His last name Tighe. Yeah, and the saying like, have a good time. Here's a script. Go for it.
Have fun.
And Walter Hill directing, who we do not have an interview with. I've tried, but Walter Hill is just knocking out of the park. It's also one of the shortest episodes, like only 20 minutes. But that just makes it like so compact and so lean. It just works.
There's no filler in it. It's just everything's advancing the story and just unhinged Lance Henriksen is just one of my favorite things in the world. He just plays so over the top and crazy, but it works and it makes sense. And you buy these characters as being these degenerate gamblers. I mean, obviously they're degenerate gamblers and they hate each other, but you buy every second of it. And I love this episode.
Okay, and then our number 1, and Jody, this is your number 1, is Death of Some Salesmen.
I love this episode, and I'm so glad this made it up near the top. At the top, actually.
This is my number 3. Is awesome episode.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it, because this is what, season 5 that this one comes from. I thought the glory days
season 5, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the glory days were behind us. We'd already kind of hit all the peaks, and then we got to this one, and I just loved it. I didn't see this one in the past. This is, the first time I watched it was when we watched it for the show, and you've got one actor, Tim Curry, playing 3 characters and playing them all so well. He is so funny and so gross. There's one character in there that is just a disgusting. There's a sex scene in there that will make you cringe, and then the gore, and it's a gory, like probably one of the goriest episodes of the entire series, I would say. Like, there's a lot of bodies hidden in a lot of places, but it's Tim Curry. It's Tim Curry that makes it. Like, all the messiness is fun. And who's playing the straight man in this one? The con guy.
Ed Bigley Jr.
Ed Bigley Jr. Yeah, he's great in his role too. Just going along with everything. But it's Tim Curry. You get 30 minutes of pure, unfiltered Tim Curry hamming it up in 3 different characters at the same time: a mother, a father, and a daughter. So he's playing different genders, different ages. It's just Tim Curry. It's Tim Curry at his most Tim Curryest.
And I bet that Gil Adler just told Tim Curry to do whatever you want. Like, you got this.
Have fun.
Let him go. And that's awesome. That's how it should be with a guy like that.
Yes, this is directed by longtime producer Gil Adler, and he had lunch with Tim Curry. Well, first they reached out to Tim Curry, and he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to do any more prosthetics. He was like over it after like Legend and everything else he's done.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Well, let me just sit down for lunch with you, and we don't have to talk about it. It's fine. We don't have to talk about it." And then they sit down, and Tim's like, "Okay, fine. Tell me about the episode." And he tells him, and he's like, "I don't know." And then he calls Gil back a couple days later and says, "I want to do this because it scares me. It's challenging. I'm afraid to do it."
I love it.
And he's like, "Okay, bring it on."
That's awesome.
Yeah, Gil Adler was a longtime producer on this series from seasons 3 through 7. And he also directed What's Cooking and the Bordello Blood movie, which I'm sure all of our Chattanooga friends will be hearing plenty about soon. And he just kind of puts together this weird, grotesque, darkly humorous episode that just,
I think grotesque is a good word for it, because all the way from Tim Curry's characters to all the effects, like it's so over the top in every way. Like, I think that's why I put it as my number 1. It's Tales unhinged. It's like there's nothing holding anybody back in any department of this episode, and they just got to have fun with it, and I have fun with it too.
It's almost Toby Hooper-ish in that it's like a grotesque, terrifying black comedy. Reminds me a lot of Chainsaw 2 in some ways.
Yeah.
Because you still have the horror of this salesman who's not a good person either, but he's trapped in this house, and there's no escape from this diabolical family and
insane people.
Now I want Texas 2 with all characters played by Bill Moseley.
I love Bill Moseley, but I couldn't. It's funny. So the only reason I'm against it is I couldn't see him being the hulking Leatherface.
Well, it'll be a challenge. But yeah, this is one that time and time again people will come back to as one of the top episodes, and for good reason.
It's just that Tim Curry.
But again, I think in Ed Bigley's performance is actually very underrated because he has to play against that. And he has to just keeping a straight face through all that. I don't know how the hell he does it.
No, he does a great job in it, and looking terrified, and just you get that feeling that he's in this inescapable situation. Like, he's great in it.
He's the con man who ends up getting conned.
Well, and he's in that situation where if you've ever been somewhere that you don't want to be, but you can't leave, and it just progressively gets worse and worse and worse and worse through this whole episode. And he holds it together. But I don't think any other actor could have pulled off what Tim Curry does in this one. I think this episode would not be the same without him. Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's my favorite. And once I watched that, I said, okay, well, I already know what my number 1 is, and it hasn't changed since we watched it, 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, that was another episode that I knew was top 5 for me. I didn't know where it was, but I knew it was top 5.
No, it was top 5 for all 3 of us. And again, it was. I'll put this way: it scored 4 more points than number 2. That's how definitive that was.
Yeah.
All right. So just to give some comparison, we pulled a couple different groups about what their favorite Tales from the Crypt episode was. If you go to if Reddit is still a thing, in anyone listening to this in the future, the Reddit's Tales from the Crypt group is a fun place to go, and they did kind of a March Madness style competition, and they broke up brackets of each season and then had each of the winners of the seasons kind of go after each other, go up against each other through voting. So the ones they chose for the best of each season is All Through the House, Television Terror, Yellow, What's Cooking, Death of a Salesman, or Death of Some Salesman, Only Skin Deep, and Third Pig. So those are the top of each episode, season.
What was the last one?
Third Pig. It's the last episode. It's
the final episode. It's animated. Yeah, that's one I remember as a kid, but I don't expect it to actually be good. I just remember it.
And they put all those up against each other for more voting, and Death of Some Salesman came out on top. So yeah. I think we're seeing a trend here. We asked our patrons on Patreon what their favorites were. Just to sample some of those, we got some votes for Yellow, votes for Death of Some Salesman, Television Terror, Split Second, Ventriloquist Dummy. Someone put on Judy, You're Not Yourself Today. Beauty
that was really good.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Beauty Rest is one I like a lot. Strung Along, Abracadabra, and Forever Ambergris. I put out a call on Twitter to see what their favorite was. We got a lot of votes for Yellow. We got some for The New Arrival, which I was happy with. We had some for 2 for the Show, The Confession.
Okay.
We got a bunch for All Through the House, What's Cooking, Television Terror, some Top Billing. We got one for Crying Out Loud, which again is a great episode.
It's a good one.
Foreman's Calamity, House of Horror, Abracadabra.
It's fun. I know a lot of people don't like Corman's Calamity. I love that episode.
I do too.
It's a lot of fun.
It feels like a comic come to life.
Yeah, I appreciate that one. I love the setting of the EC Comics office.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
That's really fun.
Well, and you got Harry Stone in it too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Or Harry Anderson, Harry Stone. What's his real name? Anderson. Harry Stone is his character on Night Court. I got it backwards.
I need to watch the Night Court.
I loved Night Court when I was a kid.
Me too.
And then we put out a call to all of our friends over at the Chattanooga Film Festival Discord. And again, they put a lot of the same ones: Death of Some Salesman, Cutting Cards, Abracadabra, All Through the House. There were a couple who like people who live in brass hearses, which the more I watch it, the more I like it. It's a bit of an oddball episode. Some people put down Easel Kill Ya, You Murderer.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
We had one we haven't talked about, which is a big fan favorite, is Carry On Death.
Oh, Carry On Death. Yeah, very good one too.
It's a very
that was definitely in my honorable mentions. Kyle MacLachlan and a vulture, pretty much the entire episode.
In a dummy, yeah. And with some more votes for Dig That Cat, Lower Birth, Forever Ambergris, and Television Terror. So I love that there's definitely ones that come up over and over again, and then there's some that are just fan favorites that get kind of thrown around the mixture. For a series with 90 episodes, there's just so many gems in there.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, some of the favorites are going to be like when you saw this episode, right?
Yes.
Did you see it when you were young, like you said, Jason? It had a very, very impressionable effect on you, or did you just do a 80 episode rewatch and have it fresh in your memory?
Right. Okay. Well, that wraps up our episode ranking, but we've got some more fun for you. Mando, why don't you give us your song of the week?
Okay, so I had to think about this. I wanted something good for our episode, and again, it's a song most people out there are probably gonna hate. Deal with it. I pick metal songs. I was gonna do something sentimental, but I'm gonna save that. So I was thinking about what Tales from the Crypt kind of means for me, and I think it means the same thing for you guys. It was a gateway, not my gateway to horror was Nightmare on Elm Street, But still, though, this is as I was learning about horror and finding out why I loved horror, or if I loved horror, is kind of that those things I would sneak on HBO when I was young and watch and kind of fell in love with the show. I mean, the Crypt Keeper scared the shit. I mean, I was a kid and I loved it. So I was trying to think like my gateway into the world of heavy metal was Metallica's Enter Sandman video when I was 8 years old. And I think one of the reasons why I loved the video and got attached to it was it reminded me of that video's got snakes and fire. It's everything Beavis and Butthead would love. It's but it's also very horror themed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I went backwards and discovered Black Sabbath, which made me really fall in love with metal. And then 1994, Slayer came out with Divine Intervention. I was 11 years old, and my cousin gave me that CD. I fell in love with that. I'm like, this is the scariest shit I've ever heard. But then we had local college radio out here, 91.5, where if you were somehow made, well, my parents were never home, so I would routinely stay up to like 3 or 4 in the morning as a kid. And I discovered just one day flipping through the radio. Kids, I know, like you guys might not know what that's like, but for us old men and old people, we used to flip through the radio to find stuff we liked. And I found college radio in 91.5. And from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays, they'd have shows dedicated to metal. But I remember the first time I listened to it, the first thing that the hostess said, I forgot her name. She was great. She goes, this isn't for those of you who are going to be stuck on Metallica and Sepultura for the rest of your life. I remember that vividly because my first thought was, I love Metallica and Sepultura. Like, leave me alone. As I was 11 or 12 years old. And then I heard Dark Throne, Norwegian black metal band Dark Throne. They just come out with, and I think the first song I heard off them was Transylvanian Hunger off of the album Transylvanian Hunger. And I was immediately like, what the fuck is this? It scared the shit out of me. It was this raw, visceral form of music. And I fell in love with it right away. I knew this is like my shit. And then I sent cash to Norway in an envelope to get cassette tapes, which if I still had those cassette tapes, I could probably be retired. But
not even a check, but just straight cash.
Just straight cash, dude. You couldn't send so in order to find out how to buy this, I had to find the label it was on in the back of a Metal Maniacs magazine, which I bought from Smith's grocery store, and then found where to send money to. And I wasn't going to ask my mom to write me a check for some satanic metal. So I took my cash and pulled on a piece of paper and sent it to him. And then like 6-7 months later, this is while I was living in a haunted house, by the way, but like 7 months later, I got 2 cassette tapes in the mail finally, forwarded to our new house that we had gotten. But and it was Dark Throne's Transylvanian Hunger and the new album they just came out with, which is divisive at the time, called Panzerfaust. And Panzerfaust was kind of just this great. And when I was young, to me, it was just cool ass metal. But as I got older, I realized how much of a departure of styles it was for them, and how much I love Panzerfaust because it's just this gritty, angry sounding album. And one of my favorite songs on that album, I think, fits very well for this episode because it's called Quintessence. And it's just a great chugging guitar riff with these very tortured vocals. It sound like they're recorded on a Sony boombox and then piped through a bathroom like intercom speaker into a recording system. And I love that album for what it is, and love the fact that it's just so raw and dirty. And in my opinion, it's like I think everybody should listen to this stuff. They will, it's not for everybody, but I think you should give it a shot if you have any love of metal. Like my problem with and this is for anyone that doesn't regularly listen to us. Here's where I make all you guys enemies of mine. My problem with most modern metal that comes out and most modern death metal is it's technically fantastic. There's some great musicians, and I'm not saying anything bad about why people love it today, because that's cool, like that's their thing. But one of the reasons why I don't love it is because it sounds too polished and too overproduced. Whereas back then, a lot of it was much like Tales from the Crypt was very DIY. Jody mentions the boom mic. I love when I hear the mess up in the drums on the track. I'm like, that's I know a guy's actually playing drums and didn't go spend 8 hours in Pro Tools to fix his drum fuck up. When I was young and we recorded a demo one time, we had to get a high. I'll get into a story about that in another episode about a person's arm out the window and a hi-hat cymbal. But it was just the DIY, those early recordings, is having people who didn't like know what they're doing. They're inventing this stuff as it went along. Yeah. Is just the beauty of it. And that's why I'll never be one of those old Luddits that's like, so much better in my day. No, because the fact like I can pick my phone up now and listen to almost anything that comes out. There's still great music coming out today that I do absolutely love, but the really technical, overly polished stuff is not for me. And this is like the quintessential raw, dirty, angry DIY album that I think fits in perfectly with Tales from the Crypt. And the reason why it fits in too is Fenriz, the drummer. He's just kind of a wacky guy. He's that guy that wasn't one of the first he's one of the original the black metal scene when they're out burning churches and killing people. He's one of the guys that was one of the first people to really kind of get that this is kind of, as he got older, this is goofy. And we don't have to take ourselves too seriously. I mean, on their last record, the newest record they did, the album cover is him ice skating. And people are mad about it. And then you realize these people that are mad about it, like 17-year-old kids that someone don't understand when you become 50 years old, you have a different outlook on life. And another funny story about Fender is before I end this is that he's also against his will elected to a Norwegian office. Norwegian local government. I guess in Norway you can just kind of nominate anybody, and the role he was in was basically if someone else couldn't be there to do their duties, he had to step in. So when he got nominated, he took a picture with his cat and said, "Please, I do not want to do this. Like, do not vote for me. I really do not want to do this." So of course they voted him in against his will. He was pretty pissed off about it.
That's awesome.
He also has a great Patreon where he just kind of DJs old records and plays like new stuff he's into, and it's usually I discover a lot of cool music based off that. So check it out. I can't remember the name of the podcast, but if you just type in like the Fenriz podcast, FENRIZ, you'll find him. But if you're thinking about subscribing to him, subscribe to us first, so please, and then you can. I'm looking to retire here, folks. So Dark Throne, the song Quintessence, because we just gave you the quintessential Tales from the Crypt episodes off the album Panzerfaust or Panzerfaust. I don't know, however you pronounce it. I'm not Norwegian. I'm a fucking Greek.
Thank you, Mando.
You are welcome, Jason. You're
Love
welcome.
it. All right. And then Jody, give us some dad advice.
Okay, so we didn't plan this because I didn't know what song Mando was going to be picking, and he didn't know
real fast. If you look at Jason's shirt, I swear to God, it says "bedtime, motherfucker." No, there you
go. That'd be a funny shirt.
I hear that in Kassir's voice.
That's every dad on the planet after a certain point. Like, go to bed. But we didn't plan any of this. But when you were talking about the DIY aspect of this stuff, where they're figuring stuff out, they're making things, I was thinking earlier today, what kind of advice do I want to give, not just in general, but like to this audience that we have here at the Chattanooga Film Fest? And to me, some of the most important advice is if there's something you want to do or something you want to make, just go out there and do it. Like, whether you know what you're doing or not, whether you have a plan, whether you understand all the ins and outs of it. Because I was thinking about this, we're talking about our top 10 episodes after watching 80 something episodes. When we first started this podcast, I did not have a clue how to do a podcast. I didn't know anything about it. Like, Jason and Mando sent me a message one day saying, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I said, sure. Yeah, let's make this happen. And 6 weeks later, we were talking with John Kassir for the first time.
Yeah.
It was mind blowing. And I had, again, no idea what we were doing. We talked with Bill Sadler very early on in this podcast. And again, I'm like, how are we doing this? We've had times that Jason will get, what's that?
We've had Al Katz on the pod. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How is this happening?
No, we're like part of the unofficial family with Al and Gil. Like, I don't understand how this even happened. And we went into this with no technical skills on these levels. Like, none of us were into production or podcast or anything like that. Like, none of our jobs relate to this in any way. We didn't have contacts. Jason just got IMDb Pro and started emailing people. And it turned into this thing. And now we're talking to y'all at the Chattanooga Film Fest right now. And as a longtime participant in the Film Fest, I've done this now for 3 years of being, a person who watches all these movies and participates in the conversation. And now we're part of it. Again, I don't even know how this happened. We just did it. Like, we sat down, we got mics, and we did it, and it became a thing.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think that's why I love horror shorts. I've been to my share of film festivals. Unfortunately, I haven't made the Chattanooga, but I love shorts because it's people going out there and trying, seeing what works and what doesn't, and that's really how you get to any real point, any level is just doing it, figure out what works, what doesn't, refining, figure out what works, what doesn't, refining, and putting yourself out there. You know, a
One
lot
of my favorite
of
things to see, like when you hear when they do like when they'll do like a profile on a director, is when they'll show clips from like their original like homemade movies they're trying to make, because it's I'm sure they had someone telling them, oh man, you need to stick with this. But I'm sure they also had a lot of people telling them that what they did was garbage. But they stuck, but as a passion, and they stuck with it and they tried. And you can't get to step B. You can't become Guillermo del Toro if you don't start at, you know, shot on VHS, or you know what I mean? Like, you got to start somewhere. And like Jody said, like, somebody's got to go there and just do it and see what happens.
I mean, and I'm thinking about, you know, the folks who are watching us right now. You know, you've got people who've been watching all kinds of cool ass movies all weekend. They're going to watch more stuff. And it just, there are people right now going, I would love to make a movie. Like, I'm watching these things and I would love to do that myself. Do it. Like, even if you don't have the production value, even if you don't have the cash, you probably have a phone that has a camera on it. You probably have some friends that you could recruit. Get some people, get some good collaborators. I mean, we couldn't have done this without each other. Like, if I had thought about starting a podcast on my own at different points, and these two guys have made it possible. Like, on my own, I couldn't have done it.
Same.
So get some good collaborators and get out there and just do it. Just try. Even if you make something that nobody sees but you and some of your friends, you're going to learn some stuff. And then maybe you do it again. And this time you're a little bit better at it. And maybe you can get some investors to give you a little bit of cash to make it better, and do it again and do it again. And, you know, maybe you'll be in the film fest sometime next year. Some of y'all are doing the screenwriters pitch as part of CFF this year. Do it. If you've got an idea, write it, get it out there.
And even if you don't end up becoming successful, sometimes just wanting to do something and getting to do it.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking awesome. And I don't care. I don't care if someone's makes a terrible fan film or whatever they want to make. If they're proud of it and they're happy with it and it scratches that itch and it's all they want to do, like, man, do you, like, be happy. And that comes with everything in life too, not just that. Like, you want to make music, don't go like audition for American Idol. Go fucking get 3 people and start a shitty garage band and get better and have fun with it. Have a great time. Worst case scenario, you hang out with your buddies and drink some beers and play some music. Like, it's, oh God, that sounds terrible, right? There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And even if and maybe you do it and you realize, oh, I don't want to do this, but God, it feels pretty fucking good to try.
Yeah. I mean, people ask me like how we got some of these huge interviews, like Bob Gale, the writer of Back to the Future kind of stuff. And it's like, it's all building up to that. It's like, you don't start with that. You start with, you know, the first person that says yes, and you just kind of build on and on and on. And that's a lot of these I got through because I did interview with like 2, it's like a chain of people. It took like 3 interview yeses to get up to this other person. Because a lot of these guys are all friends and stuff. So once you kind of get in, and like my theory in this has always been no one's too big or too small to ask. Because like I emailed Mick Garris the other day and said, is there any way you could get a message to Stephen King's publicist? Because we're gonna be doing Creep Show in a little bit. And he's like, dude, it took me 4 years to convince him. He doesn't do podcasts really. So
I like that he just casually name dropped talking to Mick Garris.
no, I'm just saying, like, you know, well, but first it took me a while to get to Mick Garris, and then, you know.
Oh yeah, I know.
So that's my point. It's like, you know, and I don't care if someone's, I mean, I don't like hearing no, but that's not going to stop me from asking. You can't let no stop you from trying. The idea
no's a
of
valid answer. No's okay. I'd rather be told no than get ignored.
Well, and you know,
I'd much rather hear no than be ignored, and I'd much rather try. It's like the cliche, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You know, if you don't ask someone, you never know.
Well, and you know, all these awesome guests that we've gotten to talk to, like, literally, Jason just asked them, like, do you want to do this? And a lot of them said yes, a lot more than I expected.
The first person we asked was John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and like within a couple hours, I got a message from his agent saying like, "How's Tuesday?" And I'm like, first, I'm like, "Is this being pranked?" And also, how the hell do I do an interview? Because it occurred to me how is more like, will someone do it? And I have to figure out how to do interviews.
I remember when you sent us that message, I was walking around like shopping for groceries at Walmart or something. I'm like, holy shit, we're going to talk to John Kassir? That's amazing.
And the best part is John Kassir is such an amazing like performer that he just perpetually goes and goes and goes. So I made like 40 questions, only got to like maybe 10, if that. because it just keeps going and going, and it was perfect. We were cracking up the whole time.
That was a great first interview because I think we talked for a combined 30 seconds and John took over.
And that's what you want.
Yeah. Sometimes too, you can try stalking people. Like Stephen King's going to wake up in the middle of the night and Jason's going to be sitting in a chair in his room. You're a big tall guy. You should be standing. It's more intimidating.
Like that's advanced asking.
Yeah.
Advanced asking.
Advanced asking.
I mean, none of us.
I'll be a shadow person stalking him.
Do you want to do our podcast? Because I'd hate to have to use a chloroform.
That's like the remake of Misery. Is with a podcaster.
Jason just staying at the end of Stephen King's bed with a blowtorch. Like, you know where this is going, dude.
Just do the interview. I want to break out the axe.
See, there's a free idea for somebody. I said, just do it. Maybe you didn't have a good idea. You've got a new idea. It's Misery with a podcaster trying to get someone to guest on there, and then just go from there.
Yeah, right. Real quick, we take no legal responsibility if someone breaks into Stephen King's house.
Yeah, we didn't do it.
Blowtorch. I love Stephen King. I don't want that to happen.
No,
Stephen King,
he's a treasure.
And snarky Twitter Stephen King is the best.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Jody, that's really good advice. That's really in the spirit of the film festival, is people sharing what they did and inspiring others, and who knows who the next whoever is there. So
yeah, no, there's been some great like ultra low budget movies at this film fest in the past that I really enjoyed. Just if nothing else, because somebody went out there and made it. Like, they made it happen. What was it? Duel on a River that was a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
It was like $3,000 and they made a whole movie, and it was good. It was fun. It was entertaining.
I love that movie. That was fun. Yeah.
So just do it. Just get out there and give it a shot. We didn't know anything about podcasting when we started. We didn't have any industry connections, and we've gotten to do all kinds of cool shit just because we did it. We tried it. We asked people.
And the piece to it too, like, if you're passionate about it and it's something you love, it will show through in what you do. Whether it's a great movie or not. I mean, there's movies I've seen, like low budget movies. I'm like, that wasn't really good, but man, like I can't wait to see what they do next, because there's something there. There's something there, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, one of my favorite horror movies is Jason 10. And I love it because it just seems like you're in on the joke and everyone's having a good time and having fun. I'm like, it's passionate. I love it. Because, like, I mean, whether we had 5 people listening to us or like 10,000, I'd probably still be here talking to you guys about Tales from the Crypt. I wouldn't care.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just fun.
Totally. Well, and also,
as long as we don't make us do ritual ever again. If you want ritual again, I'll come to your house and kick you in the shin.
Well, also we want to give a shout out to Andrew Bowser, who is premiering his new film at Chattanooga Film Festival, Onyx and the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. He was on our podcast, and great guy, and we had a good time. So, we love our little family that we have with our guests and other fans. So,
and I want to give one more quick shout out to two people, or two groups of people that inspired us, that got us going. One is Caitlin Grant, who when Plug It Up started, I think that got a lot of us thinking maybe we can do this, and got us going with the podcast. Also want to give a shout out to the Bloody Good Horror podcast, because that's how we all met each other. And we listened to those guys a lot, and it helped us kind of get that bug for wanting to do it ourselves. So I just want to special thanks to both of them, because they were huge.
And we started doing this.
Caitlin Grant's the one that made me realize that 3 of us could do what she does on her own.
If we combine 3 people, we might equal one Caitlin.
Not as well, but we try.
Not equal. We might come, in the same realm.
This also gave me appreciation for how difficult podcasting is. I think we've come a long way since our early episodes, and we're just like, what do we do? Because it's not as easy as you think it is. Like, I always thought I'd be good at doing wrestling commentaries. I love pro wrestling, watch all wrestling. I tried doing it. I'm like, oh no, I'm terrible at this. I'm not good at this at all. This is so difficult.
Anyone who's ever been good at something was once bad at something.
That's a adventure timeline.
Is it?
Jake the dog says the first step of being really good at something is really sucking at something.
Yeah.
So that's not the exact quote, but I love that quote.
It's something like that. Yeah. But no. Jake's a good dad, so that's good dad advice.
He is a good dad to a bunch of little unicorn dog things.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up this episode. I want to thank the organizers of the Chattanooga Film Festival for inviting us to be on here. We hope everyone's having a good time. We appreciate everyone for listening. You can find the rest of our episodes on iTunes or Spotify, or other podcast services. You can also find videos of these podcasts on YouTube. Look for Dads from the Crypt. With that, we thank you for listening and watching to Dads from the Crypt.
And go Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Yes.
2023 Stanley Cup champions. I was in a hotel room in Florida by myself watching the game. It was so sad. Then I couldn't go to sleep because I was so amped up. 9-3. And you want to know what? After I left Florida, I'm happy I left Florida. Let's put it that way.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Adios.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.